Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The reactions are still pouring in to the official announcement of Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, the exhibition match. This reaction happens to be Alicia Baumgardner's, who recently signed to MVP, reacting to the complaints, the criticisms for the exhibition. She said, "I think what upsets people the most is Tank and Jake do what they want because they can. They don't give a fuck how you feel." To which a Twitter user who goes by the name Patriot responded, "Take them knee pads off, mama. We know Jake signs your checks, but you're on your knees for this clown shit. It's a bad look." To which Alicia responded, "Funny how you're on your knees and my comments worried about my checks." Is it the way that Alicia says it is? Are people angry at Jake and Gervonta because they do what they want? Sort of. People want to see Gervonta Davis fight somebody good. They want to see him fight a Devin Haney, a Shakur Stevenson, not a Jake Paul, and not in a circus fight. So in that way, he doesn't really care what they want. She's right about that, but that doesn't make this right. Another Twitter user stated, "I don't think that's it at all. Fight fans wanted to see Tank versus Roach rematch," to which Alicia responded, "True. But fans always want different matchups. The reality is, this is the one that got made." To which Petey Wheatstraw responded, "So fuck the fans, right?" Alicia responded by saying, "I mean, you guys are still gonna watch it, right?" And they are. I mean, she is right about that too, that this event is likely to draw eyes to it. But just because you can draw eyes to a circus doesn't mean the participants aren't clowns. They very much are clowns. The biggest one would have to be Gervonta. Of Jake Paul, you cannot expect much. Jake isn't the one that you're supposed to hold to some kind of a standard. It's Gervonta, who's only 30 years old, with many good options for a legitimate boxing match, but this is what he chose. And it would seem that Alicia supports his decision to be another willing participant in the clown show, in the circus, so long as it gets him a bag, right? So long as it gets him paid. Right. She said, "I mean, y'all are still gonna watch it, right?" To which Summerhill Spice responded, "Or maybe people want to see real boxing matches. Come on,
Shouty.
You know better than this." To which Alicia responded, "I know numbers don't lie. And this fight is set to do big numbers, I think it is, but for no other reason than the platform that's broadcasting it. It's not being billed as a pay-per-view, it's not behind a paywall, and it's being broadcasted by Netflix, which is available in millions upon millions of households." And that would explain why, even though people are against this and they didn't want it, they're gonna end up watching it anyway. It's because it's immediately accessible to them, but once again, that doesn't make it right. That does not absolve Gervonta Davis of criticism. A Twitter user that goes by the name Bye Bye Student Loans responded by saying, "A pompous statement from you, as always. Ain't none of y'all big enough to be looking down on real fans that keep this sideshow of a sport alive. But of course, you co-sign this because dude is cutting your checks. The sport loses more credibility every year, and the few stars y'all have don't do anything to help." To which Alicia followed up, "Boxing's never been about fair steps. It's about making the most of your shot. Some people talk about it, others take it," seemingly justifying Gervonta Davis's decision in tandem with Jake Paul's continued presence in the sport. Some might look at that and say that Alicia is not part of the solution, she's part of the problem. What is a uniquely American problem? Sort of circus acts are more abundant within the American boxing space than the British one, than the Asian one, the Australian one. You see more of this here in the United States. Why? And why would Alicia Baumgardner try to justify it? Because Jake Paul promotes her now and she's towing the line. And because her philosophy is get the motherfucking bread and leave. Peace out, irrespective of what people think. It's a numbers game. Hello! I do wonder what Alicia's stance would have been if she weren't with Most Valuable Promotions right now. Reading through this, I was disappointed in her. I have to admit that. For a brief moment, Some part of me expected better of her, though coming back to my senses, this is exactly why I don't put fighters on a pedestal. This is why I don't talk about them like they're municipal servants or soldiers.
Why I don't play them the violin.
Because there are many fighters out there that are happy to serve you. Absolute garbage if they can,
Slop.
so long as they get paid. And it would seem that Alicia is of that same mindset because she's supporting this.
A lot of people are gonna watch this thing. They are, but this isn't what they wanted.
And based on these responses, Alicia, like Gervonta, doesn't care what the people want. Gervonta Davis has left himself open to all the criticism that he is now receiving, and even if in November a lot of people tune in to watch this, that doesn't absolve him of that criticism.
Being part of this spectacle when there were so many better options for a real boxing match, it would seem that several American fighters, they don't want to give you real boxing, they'll give you this. If they can.
And even if she's not doing that herself right now, what this reveals is that at some point, she is willing, also endorsing Gervonta Davis's duck.
Because he ducked Lamont Roach. It was not an either-or situation. You could have fought Lamont in the summer and Jake in the fall.
The reason he didn't is because if he would have fought Lamont again, he might have lost. And if he loses, what happens to the Jake Paul fight then? So you are supporting his cowardice.
His ducking.
They used to call boxing the noble art, but you don't see that many people saying that now because there's very little nobility in it.
And I reiterate that this is a uniquely American problem. A regular panelist here on the channel, Leo Vega, he said it better than I did. Boxing in America, it seems, it has to be a grift of some kind. It has to be a scam. It can't be boxing for the sake of boxing. It has to be a come-up. It has to be a swindle, an okey-doke.
A heist. Where boxing is still boxing in the UK and Eastern Europe, parts of Asia, Mexico, but in America, no, it's got to be an okey-doke.
The American boxer is seeming more and more about the shortcuts.
Shortcuts that Alicia Baumgardner seems to support. And you can make of that what you will. She can defend her new boss all she likes, and she can defend Gervonta Davis too, from some sense of solidarity.
But the criticisms are going to continue to reign in.
You're just in it for the bag after all. Not the adulation, not the legacy.
It's all about the bag, irrespective of what you have to do to get it, right?
Right? Even if it requires you to compromise what little integrity you have. It's all about the bag.
How many times have you heard me say that the people in boxing are too willing to sell their souls? They all have a price. Would seem she has hers.
It reminded me of a tweet from my old college roommate, Stephen Kimothy, something he tweeted last week before this news broke. He said, I have a question. If boxing was run by the fighters, and they were the ones in charge, do you really think they'd make more of the fights we as fans want to see? Or would they just take the easiest fights for the best money? In other words, largely what is taking place now.
Well, it would seem we've got our answer, Steve.
The bottom line is that big fights are made because it generally pays the most, as they should. But again, I've been told many times that it's prize fighting and not pride fighting. So, let's be honest. As humans, most are always looking for the most amount of money for the least amount of effort. It's human nature. I never been offered 2 jobs and taken the one that pays less and is more difficult. It's a great fallacy that somehow fighters being in charge would improve this business.
I agree. That's why I keep saying, I don't treat these fighters like they're municipal servants or soldiers. I don't want to hear about their sacrifices. Whatever you're sacrificing, it's not for me.
No.
It's not for Steve.
No.
It's for your bank account. There is this misconception.
This growing trend I've seen the last few years, that the boxer is always right. The mean old promoter and the mean old broadcast network, they just want to exploit everybody.
Exploit the fighter.
As if the fighter wouldn't easily exploit them if given the chance. Exploit me and you if given the chance. That's what this is. This is a shortcut, folks. A shortcut to the money. For Jake, it's a shortcut who pretends to be a boxer but doesn't want to go about things like an actual boxer. You're fighting a goddamn lightweight in an exhibition.
As a shortcut to the money.
And Gervonta is fighting you instead of somebody else as a shortcut to the money.
The most rewards for the least risks. That's the logic.
Which is relatable, as Steve highlighted, but it doesn't make for a sustainable business. That the boxers being in charge doesn't necessarily equal better boxing.
Better business.
What does Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis do for the business of boxing? Oh, they get to make money. They do. But what about the rest of the sport? And what message does that send to the young generation of fighters coming through? That they shouldn't try hard and they shouldn't aspire to unify. Gervonta Davis didn't.
Who needs undisputed?
Who needs to take risks? Gervonta Davis never took any. I think it gets lost on a lot of people that he's been campaigning as a lightweight for 7 years and never actually beat a champion there. A lightweight champion, of which there were several. He never fought one. Young fighters are seeing this, and this may end up being something they aspire to try and take the same shortcuts as Gervonta. Don't take any risks. Don't fight in any hard fights.
That doesn't make for a sustainable business. Just because Jake and Gervonta are making a boatload of cash with each other, that doesn't make this overall good for the sport. It's actually not, because it sends the wrong message.
But what is Gervonta Davis about, if not sending the wrong message? I've heard it said on so many occasions by so many people that he's doing it for the culture. The culture.
Coward culture?
Domestic abuse culture? Putting your hands on a woman? Because that's all he ever seems to get in trouble for. What culture? Latent homosexual tendencies culture? Because he's got them.
What culture are we referring to? It can't be boxing culture. If he's doing it for the culture, it's not that one.
You can't be a boxing fan, a true blue boxing fan, and simultaneously be a fan of Gervonta Davis, just like you can't be a heterosexual male and defend his shenanigans.
The only guys doing that are the ones attracted to him. They want butt sex.
Would the industry of boxing be better left in the hands of the fighters? That's the question that Steve Kim asks. I say no.
We heard so many horror stories of the past. Promoters that exploited fighters.
But left in the hands of the fighters, that same exploitation would still be going on. Except instead of promoters exploiting fighters, you would have fighters exploiting fans, exploiting broadcasters, exploiting promoters.
It wouldn't be better. It might actually be worse, because just like Steve Kim said, left of the fighters, they're always going to elect for the most money, for the least risks.
More often than not, that's what they're gonna do, and that's not good for a product. That's not good for a business that if it were up to you, you'd never take any risks, you'd make boatloads of cash, and if the fans don't like it, well, who cares what the fans think?
Till one day there are no fans. This is not a sustainable business. It's too high risk an investment.
Maybe broadcasters don't want no parts of it. They withdraw. They walk away. Wait a minute.
I think we're already there.
Boxing in America really is in the worst shape that it's ever been. The sport as a whole has grown globally, but in the United States, in America, boxing ain't what it used to be.
I got Canelo. I've been had Canelo. I think Canelo winning is best for the sport. Bud is on his way out. Canelo looking like he's going to be here for some time now. I think Canelo has more fights to be made than Bud. I only can think of who Bud got after this. Bivol? I don't see that happening. Benavidez? Definitely don't see that happening. Like people saying these unrealistic names, like Bud is actually going to get in the ring with those guys. You got to think, man. Shakur said it. He's going up in weight to fight the smallest Canelo. He's not going up there fighting the Mexican monster David Benavidez. He's not going up there fighting Bivol. He's going up there fighting the miniature Canelo. So why the fuck would you think he'd go in there and fight a fucking Morel? I got Canelo, man. I think he has more fights than Hamza Sharaf. Bivol rematch with Canelo.
That was an interesting perspective from that caller on the Boxing Voice. What outcome would be better for the sport of boxing, the business of boxing? He thinks it's better if Canelo wins because he's going to stick around. Terrence, win or lose, which I agree with.
What?
He's not going to stick around. What do you think? He's going to stick around and fight Christian Mabili or Diego Pacheco? He becomes undisputed. What do you think? He's going to stick around and make defenses of the undisputed crown? He didn't make any at 140, at 147, and he's 37 now, going on 38. He wins that fight, he takes the money and runs. He loses that fight, the same thing happens.
Terrence is not going to stick around after that fight, after having made all the money he made on ESPN and Top Rank, and whatever he made with Spence.
Whatever he made on Black Prime, boxing David Evanesian, and whatever he made last year with Israel Madrimov in tandem with what he's about to make next month. This guy's not going to stick around.
He's going to take the money and run. Shag his new lady friend, maybe put a couple of kids in there.
And this is irrespective of your rooting interest, who you think is going to win or who you want to win. What's better for boxing?
I feel like the caller wants Canelo to win because he thinks it's better for boxing. Of that I agree. It would be better if Canelo won because Canelo's not about to retire. Terence is.
So that's why it's better if Canelo wins. That by itself doesn't mean that he's going to. I don't know what's going to happen next month. I really don't.
But objectively speaking, it would be better for boxing, it would be better for the industry if Canelo wins, because he's going to stick around, because he still is the top draw in the sport of boxing. Never mind those two clowns, Jake and Gervonta.
They're pretending they're the faces of the sport with their spectacles. But need I remind you that Canelo Alvarez had the same chance to box in a circus with Jake, and he willingly turned it down. He would have got a boatload of cash for a guy that he can easily slap around, a guy that he could easily beat, and he went the other way. He wasn't willing to sell his soul.
Maybe it's because he doesn't have to.
And isn't that better for boxing? Canelo Alvarez's fan base is organic. The baseline for your average Canelo pay-per-view is in the neighborhood of 400 to 500,000 buys.
That's with opponents nobody knows, nobody's excited about. He sold 650,000 with Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga.
Real money, real metrics, as opposed to what you've been seeing from Jake and Gervonta that is a lot more nuanced, I'll say.
Where Canelo differs from them, he's not boxing in some circus exhibition, he's boxing in a real fight. They're not.
But before we got to this point, Canelo had the same opportunity to sell out that Gervonta Davis had, and he didn't sell out. He decided he doesn't need to be a clown in Jake Paul's circus. He's better than that.
And that is better for boxing.
When you think about a younger generation of fighters coming through and who they might look up to somewhere in America, some young boxers might look up to Gervonta Davis, and somewhere in Mexico, some young boxers might look up to Canelo.
A young boxer looking up to Gervonta Davis and aspiring to be like him is aspiring to be a piece of trash. Human garbage.
Ghetto filth.
But a young boxer in Mexico that looks up to Canelo and aspires to be like him, aspires to have dignity, aspires to have self-respect, to be a self-made man, not like Gervonta.
The launch pad for Gervonta was Floyd Mayweather. That Floyd Mayweather was his mentor, his promoter. That instantly got him popularity, whereas Canelo, he had to do it the hard way, the right way.
And that Mexican fighting spirit that never died.
Canelo is many times over a better ambassador for the sport, a better spokesman, a better representation of boxing than a Gervonta Davis, and certainly better than a Jake Paul, to where, if the question is, what's better for boxing? If Canelo wins, or if Terence wins, it is Canelo.
It's nothing against Terence, but like I said, that guy's gonna retire. If he wins, if he loses, he is out of here.
Or if Canelo wins, he might fight Hamza Shiraz, he might fight Dimitri Bivol in a rematch. He may face the winner of Christian Mabili versus Lester Martinez. He's got options. He's not done.
And boxing needs him. Boxing needs him now more than ever, and other fighters like him.
As the American boxing scene dwindles and becomes more and more of a joke, you know it might be the Mexicans that save it.
They're born fighters. You don't have to beg them to do their job. You don't have to beg them to fight.